Hey, how you doing? Nick Digilio here. That's me. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Thanks for checking out the Patreon page. If you're watching me on Patreon, all the stuff that I do, the podcast, the videos, the reviews, all that stuff, it's all free. It's all DIY. So give what you can. It would help out. That'd be cool. You're rich. What the hell do you care? Dropping a few bucks a month to help out a square like me. Patreon.com/NickD Show. Patreon.com/NickD Show. Give now. So I have a couple of podcasts that I do at the podcast, the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Check out radiomisfits.com for amazing podcasts. I host the Nick D Podcast, which is a pop culture podcast that has movie reviews and TV reviews and guests. My partner is Esmeralda Leon. By the way, we're doing a live show February 21st at Zany's in Rosemont. Get your tickets now. We want to pack the place. It's going to be interactive. You can win some cool prizes. We give away a lot of cool swag and all kinds of dinners and all kinds of cool shit. And it's going to be hilarious. John DeCoste, legendary comedian, is going to be my guest. My co-host that night is going to be Amy Guth, who used to be on WGN with me. Incredibly awesome, very smart, and very funny. It's interactive. You can be a part of a live podcast recording. It's going to be so much fun. We've done this twice already. Both times had a blast. So please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies. Grab everybody. Pack the place. Rosemont.zanys.com. Rosemont.zanys.com. Get your tickets now. To see the Nick D Podcast live. So there you go. You can also call 847-813-0484. 847-813-0484. Get your tickets for Tuesday night, February 21st, Zany's in Rosemont for the Nick D Podcast live. Lots of laughs, lots of really interactive, cool stuff, and you'll be part of a live podcast recording. My 81-year-old dad is going to get up on stage and tell jokes to end the show. So if that's not enough to get you out, to see my 81-year-old dad on stage at a legendary comedy club telling jokes, then you have no heart, you have no soul. So, rosemont.zanys.com, Tuesday, February 21st, the Nick D Podcast live on stage. Pack the place, be there. So, anyway, the other podcast I have besides Nick D Podcast is my Saturday Night Live podcast, which is once a week. Every Wednesday, a new episode. It's called That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years, an SNL podcast. I called it That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years because that statement is moronic, and anybody who says it or thinks it is an idiot and hasn't watched the show. So anyway, it's a great SNL podcast. Check that out as well. I am a movie critic. I've been reviewing movies forever, for 37 years. I currently review them on the Nick D Podcast, on my podcast, and I'm the movie critic for the Steve Cochran Show, morning show on WLS AM 890. Weekdays from 5:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. The best morning drive show in the city, without question, especially better than what the idiot they have on the car wash during the mornings. But anyway, I'm on that show as a film critic, and I've been a professional movie critic for 37 years. And I very rarely walk out on movies. It doesn't happen very often. I usually stay to the bitter end, no matter how bad they are, because, I mean, you know, I made a living for a very long time, and I still make a partial living, a little bit, seeing movies. So it's my job to sit through movies that are, even if they are shitty, I usually sit through them. And that's what I'm talking about in this video. And if you want to leave your thoughts about movies that were so bad that you left, you couldn't take it anymore, I'm leaving, you get up, you leave, in the middle of a movie. What was the last movie that you walked out on? Okay? Can you name movies that were so bad that you just said, that's it, I'm leaving? What was the last movie you walked out on? You can leave your comments here, on the YouTube channel or on Patreon after, of course, you donate, patreon.com/NickDShow. Or you can actually leave them on my, this is something I'm going to talk about on my podcast, and if you want to be a part of it, you can leave a voicemail or something. You can just email me, nickdpodcast@gmail.com, nickdpodcast@gmail.com. What was the last movie that you walked on? What were movies that were so bad that you left? So last night, I went to see a movie, and I was looking in the paper. I was not in the paper. Jesus Christ, what is this? 1970. I was looking online and I saw that there was this movie called Fear that just came out. It was not screened for the critics. It was playing in a bunch of theaters. It wasn't like it snuck in and played in like one theater for a couple of showtimes for like a half a week, or it just went straight to VOD and, you know, it was streaming, you know, and hard to find, or you got to pay an extra amount of money to see it. It wasn't a difficult movie to find. You didn't have to search this out. It was playing in a bunch of theaters, chain theaters, AMC theaters, a bunch of theaters. If you looked online, this movie was playing in multiple theaters at multiplexes all over the city, and it was called Fear, a horror movie. And I had never heard of it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it just came out, you know, the publicists that I work with as a movie critic, I was not invited to any screenings. They did not screen it. The publicists didn't send out any information about this movie at all. And suddenly I look, on my phone, and I'm like, what is this movie Fear? It's playing in like 17 local theaters. Wow, okay, I guess I'll go see it. And it's a horror movie, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go see it. Well, this movie Fear, which I saw last night, well, not all of it, is the first movie that I've walked out on in 22 years. Yes, I fucking walked. It's so bad, I got up and left. I sat through Mac and Rita last year, okay? This is the Diane Keaton body switching movie from last year. I sat through all of that. I sat through all 2.5 hours of fucking Terrifier 2, which is one of the worst goddamn horror movies ever made. And I don't understand you horror fans, by the way. You people who are embracing this movie and you think it's good. I don't understand it. It is a sack of 2.5 hour shit. And I sat through all of that garbage. I sat through all of Terrifier 2. I sat through a lot. Well, shit, I sat through all of all the terrible movies that came out this year that were testing my... I sat through almost 3 hours of Tar. And that movie was just pretentious, pompous, derivative fucking nonsense. And I sat through the whole goddamn thing. So if I can sit through those movies and, not leave, this Fear movie, by way of just logic, must be awful. It's the first movie I walked out in 22 years. The last movie that I walked out on was called Gossip. And it starred Joshua Jackson and James Marsden and Kate Hudson. And it came out in 2000. Remember, I saw it at the Esquire Theater, and I was like, this is... And I had to be somewhere, and I was kind of sneaking it in, for a 2-hour time slot. And it was pretty late in the movie, and it was awful already, but I left. But I left for other... it was a terrible movie. I probably could have sat through it, but I had someplace I had to be, and it started late, and they had like 17 minutes of trailers. So I was squeezing this movie in between other things I had to do that day. And, had I not left early, I probably would have been late. But it was still a piece of shit. It was still awful. And I was happy to leave. So the last movie that I walked out on was in 2000. It was Gossip. And the last movie that I walked out on before that was the Jerry Springer movie, The Ringmaster, or whatever the fuck it's called, with Jerry Springer. And I believe Jamie Presley, the lovely, awesome, hilarious, beautiful, hot Jamie Presley was in that, if I'm not mistaken. But it was like a movie version. It was released like in 1998 when Springer was at the height of his, popularity and cult status, and Jerry, and all that shit. And that was at the Esquire. That was also at the Esquire. Wow. Okay, I walked out of that movie at the Esquire as well. So the Esquire, I guess, bad history with me walking out on movies. So the last movie that I actually walked out on because it was so awful and I didn't have anywhere to be was The Ringmaster, was the Jerry Springer movie from 1998, they sack of steaming shit, The Ringmaster. The last movie I walked out because it was terrible and I also had someplace to be was Gossip before that. But last night, a new movie has been crowned champion of latest movies that Nick has walked out on. And that is Fear. And it is a horrible movie, ineptly made, unbelievably derivative of other movies. The opening credits are a total rip. I mean, like right now, this guy who directed it, and I'm going to get to him in a minute, this guy who wrote and directed it, I'll get to him in a minute. The opening credits rip off Seven. Seven came out in 1995, okay? And this jagoff is ripping off the opening credits of Seven now. So it's derivative of other movies that are old. There's not an original bone in its body, and it's one of the most horribly written, terribly acted, ineptly made movies I've ever fucking seen. And not so bad it's laughable, but so bad that it takes itself very seriously, but is inept in every fucking possible way. It's about a group of people who gather together at an old hotel or inn, and they're going to stay for the weekend to celebrate one girl's birthday and the fact that this guy was going to, who was going to propose to his girlfriend, and they were going to celebrate that, but he chickens out at the last minute. So it's a group of friends who are at this place, and then it's during the pandemic. So the pandemic is part of it. And then while they're there, there's some spooky shit happening, some supernatural stuff, some witch shit happening, and a new form of a virus has been announced on TV where they can't go outside, they're all going to die. So it's this new form of virus that comes out. So it's basically these people, this group of people, T.I. is in it, the rapper T.I., is in it, and a group of actors, and also by the way, Joe Sikora is in it. Joe Sikora is a local actor from Chicago who I've known through the theater world, who has gone on to do other things and much better things. He's in this movie too. He plays the guy who chickens out on asking his girlfriend to marry him at the party. And then a virus comes in, people are getting sick, and then is there a ghost, is there murders, there's terrible tasting wine. Nothing happens for about more than a third of the movie, and all this suspense is built up in this directorial style, and these horrible sort of like serious moments between friends. The script seems like it was written by a 2-year-old on a dare. And the acting is fucking horrible. No, I'm sorry, Joe Sikora. I know you're a Chicago dude, but you're not good in this movie. And everybody around you does not help. So it's horrific acting, terrible writing, and it's not scary. Whatever sort of suspense, whatever social commentary this idiot is trying to make about the plague, or the, about the lockdown and COVID, and then a new strain of deadly virus taking over in the sci-fi part of this movie. None of it works. It's horrible. It's unbelievably bad. I mean, it is literally one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And again, so bad, I got up and I fucking walked out. I walked out. And I have not walked out on a movie in 22 years. So, and as I walked out, I was at the City North on Western. And as I walked out, I was the only person walking out. And the girl who was taking tickets was like, "What? Did you walk out of the movie?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "What did you see?" And I said, "Fear." She's like, "Oh, yeah. We've heard a lot of bad things about it." Well, yeah, because it's a piece of shit. So, Fear, this new movie, Fear, is the latest movie. It's the first movie that I've walked out on. So fucking awful and inept and stupid and unscary and uninteresting and filled with laughably awful fucking dialogue and stupid acting that I got up and I left. And it takes a lot for me to get up. I did not leave during Tar. I did not leave during Everything Everywhere All at Once. I did not leave during those movies, and they're shit. I did not leave during Terrifier 2. I did not leave during Mac and Rita. I left during Fear. So let me give you a little background on the fucking guy who wrote and directed this movie. This guy is named Deon Taylor, and he runs a production company called Hidden Empire Film Group. And this guy is sort of a self-made filmmaker, distributor who has a deal with Lionsgate. And he's written a whole bunch of movies that are mostly in the suspense, maybe horror genre. He's African-American, and he is taking the reins. He's taking sort of the reins from Tyler Perry in regards of being he's a self-made man. He's going to write, direct, produce 900 movies a year. He's going to make them. He's going to make sure that they get distributed and all that kind of stuff. And Tyler Perry has built himself an empire, obviously. Tyler Perry is a terrible filmmaker. He makes awful movies. But you know what? You got to give it up for his ingenuity, for his business smarts, and the fact that this guy is hugely successful and has a fucking studio system and an empire in Atlanta and has become a billionaire. Smart guy. He's a terrible writer. He's a terrible filmmaker. Pretty good actor. He was good in Gone Girl, and I've liked him in other things. But he's one of the worst filmmakers alive, Tyler Perry. He can't write worth shit. He can't direct. His movies suck. All of Tyler Perry's movies suck, but, man, you got to give it up for the fact that this guy has gotten his movies made. He's made an empire. He's made billions of dollars. He did it on his own. You know what I mean? So God bless Tyler Perry for being unbelievably successful when everything was against him. So, you know what? And he's inspired a lot of people to do that. So that's good on Tyler Perry. His movies are terrible, and he's an awful filmmaker, but God damn it, he's an inspiration to a lot of people. He's incredibly successful, and he deserves a lot of credit for, DIY shit, man, getting your shit done, and not only being successful, but becoming legendary. So I got to give it up for Tyler Perry on that front. I never want to see another fucking Tyler Perry movie as long as I live, and they're fucking awful. And again, I've never walked out on a Tyler Perry movie, and Tyler Perry's made some of the worst movies in the history of cinema. And yet I walked out on Fear. This guy, Deon Taylor, is clearly inspired by Tyler Perry. But he makes terrible movies. He made Fatale with Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy, Black and Blue, The Intruder with Dennis Quaid, another weird movie, Traffic with Paula Patton. And I've seen all these movies. They're all terrible. Meet the Blacks, which was kind of like an African-American wacky version of The Purge with Mike Epps. also terrible. Chain Letter, The Hustle. He's made a bunch of movies. Charlie Murphy's first couple of movies, and he made a couple of concert movies. So this guy's been working, and he clearly patterns himself after Tyler Perry, and he wants to have the same sort of impact and career as a mogul, as a producer, as Tyler Perry. Well, I will say this. He does have something in common with Tyler Perry. He makes shitty movies. But I just wanted, this is the thing. So this is the first movie I've walked out on. So this is what I'm leaving and what I want you to leave here. What movies have you walked out on? They're so fucking bad that you got up and said, I got to get out of here. And that's what I did yesterday while I was watching Fear. I'm like, I'm done with this. I can't handle this anymore. I'm wasting my fucking time. And I left, and it was fucking 2 degrees out last night with a wind chill of like 40 below. And I went out into that. I chose to leave early from a heated movie theater to go out into the 40 below night. I chose that over sitting through the last like 20 minutes of this fucking movie. That's how bad it was. So anyway, he's got a bio that he has on IMDb that he wrote himself. He said it's credited, the bio is credited. I just want to read this guy's bio. I'm going to read every word of it. It's credited to, the mini biography has been written by Hidden Empire Film Group, and that's his production company. Hidden Empire Film Group. And you'll see that name, Hidden Empire Film Group, about 50 times during the credits, the opening credits of any of his dumbass movies. And you'll see his name on the credits, this movie Fear. Oh shit, you know what I forgot to mention? Not only is Joe Sikora in it, who is a local actor, fucking Rick Cogan is in it. I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Rick Cogan is in the first scene of this movie. I'm sitting in the theater last night, and all of a sudden I hear this voice, and I'm like, God damn, that sounds a lot like Rick. And Rick Cogan, boom, there's Rick Cogan. He plays Rick Cogan in the movie, famous Rick Cogan journalist, interviewing this character that Sikora plays. So Sikora plays this author who is a best-selling author who's writing a book about fear. And part of the plot is that he brings all these people to this location to discuss fear and to do research on his latest book, which is about fear. And at the beginning of the movie, Cogan shows up as Rick Cogan interviewing this author, played by Joe Sikora. So the opening scene of the movie is and I've not talked to Rick. Shit, I got to call Rick. I totally forgot. I'm less than 12 hours from seeing this movie. This happened about 12 hours ago. So as I'm recording this video. So I got to call Rick and give him some shit because, it's a terrible movie. But anyway, I guess he was supporting Joe because Joe's a local actor. I don't know. But anyway, Rick Cogan as Rick Cogan in the opening scene of Fear. Best part of the movie. The only good part of the movie is Rick Cogan, and Rick Cogan can't act. So anyway, I totally forgot. Rick Cogan is in the opening scene of this movie. Rick Cogan, my old buddy from WGN, and obviously the Tribune. He's still on that stupid fucking radio station. But anyway, Rick Cogan's in the opening scene of the movie, and it all went downhill from there. So anyway, this guy who wrote and directed it, this Deon Taylor guy, who I've just mentioned, likens himself to be like a Tyler Perry. And like I said, he does have a lot in common with Tyler Perry in the fact that he makes really shitty movies. And this one is the worst. But I have to read his bio. So this is, how when you go to IMDb, you see an actor or a director or whoever on IMDb, and you look at their page and you click on bio, it's usually about a paragraph long, and it tells you what they've done and where they're from. It's usually kind of short and sweet. And then someone else could post a different bio found from somewhere else, or an updated bio. This is the bio. When you look up this jagoff, Deon Taylor, the guy who's made all these shitty movies, and the guy responsible for writing and directing Fear, the first movie I walked out on in 22 years, Deon Taylor, if you look this guy up, the writer, director, producer, the guy who is, the creator of Hidden Empire Film Group, this idiot, this is his bio, and I'm going to read it. This is his bio. And I just want you to listen to this bio. And before I read the bio, again, this guy has made some of the worst movies ever. He's got no fucking talent as a director. He's got no talent as a writer. He is a terrible filmmaker and an awful writer, okay? Awful in every fucking regard. I walked out of the latest movie that this moron has made. Here's his bio as written by him and posted by his production company. This is his bio. If you look him up on IMDb. A prolific writer, filmmaker, director, and idea generator, Deon Taylor is a self-taught creative genius. His work is innovative, his writing is cutting edge, and his vision is iconic. He is forever creating and is a force to be reckoned with in a conglomerate world of entertainment. That's the first paragraph. He is always thinking outside of the box, juggling creative projects with ease, and his intelligence is so profound. It's a no-brainer that Taylor continues to run his own thriving film and production company, Hidden Empire Film Group, formerly known as Deon Taylor Enterprises, which he launched in 2000. Taylor has formed a partnership with Roxanne Avent, a thought-provoking visionary, an amazing producer, and an executive with powerful business aptitude. With Taylor's superb insight, knowledge, desire, and fire, this union, who writes, directs, and produces all of their own projects, will be a partnership to watch and learn from. Wait, it continues. Taylor has co-written, and directed dozens of films, TV series, and special projects with which HGFD produces, and a vast array of larger budgeted projects born of Taylor's boundless energy as a multi-hyphenate writer-director. He is an expert financer. Robert Smith is on board, who keeps everything checked and balanced. For you, this is real. This was not written by the Zucker brothers. This is real. For years, Taylor has focused on the film genre of horrors/thrillers, but when producer Vincent Chiarosone asked Taylor to read the script for the film Supremacy, inspired by actual events, his passion for this project was birthed. He knew he had to find the perfect flav. He had to find the perfect flav in 2009, and Night Tales, the movie, was released in 2011. Recently completed and soon to be released was his blockbuster smash. The soon to be released blockbuster smash, Meet the Blacks. Now, by the way, I guess this was written before he did Meet the Blacks, but it was a soon-to-be-released blockbuster, so they knew it was going to be a blockbuster. Capitalizing on the breakout success of the Night Tales series, Taylor recently launched a wholly new specialty label based on the Night Tales brand name. The new specialty label is titled Night Tales Presents. All right, it goes on. There's even more. Taylor has a background in marketing, sports, and promotions. A Nike All-American basketball player from Gary, Indiana, he earned a biology degree at San Diego State University on a full basketball scholarship, where he was named conference's newcomer of the year. Taylor went on to play professionally and still competes weekly in the coveted NBA Entertainment League out of Los Angeles. The Library of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences requested a copy of the screenplay for Supremacy for their permanent core collection. Materials in the core collection are made available for study in their reading room. Scripts never circulate outside the building, and photocopying is strictly prohibited. They are a research library that serves a broad range of users, students, filmmakers, writers, as well as those for general interests. That's the only way you can read Supremacy. That's this guy's bio. I'm not making this up. That's his real bio. This is this jagoff's real bio. So he's not only an incredible filmmaker, I mean, he's a prolific writer, filmmaker, director, idea generator. He's self-taught. He's a creative genius. He's innovating. His writing is cutting edge and his vision is iconic. He is forever creating. He is a force to be reckoned with. That's the opening paragraph, and it gets worse from there, all the way to the point where, you know what, he could be a professional basketball player if he wanted to be. So I saw this bio after I saw the movie because I was like, okay, who is this director? Because this is one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. And then I read this bio. Okay. All right, I had to read that. Sorry. And that's real. I did not make that up. If you go to IMDB right now and you look up Deon Taylor, this is the actual serious, straight-faced bio that this jagoff, this unbelievably egomaniacal, talentless jagoff put on his IMDB page. I'm not making it up. It's real. So the question is, what movies have you walked out on? What was the last movie that was so terrible that you left? The last movie that I walked out on was less than 12 hours ago, and it was visionary, prolific writer, filmmaker, director, idea generator, force to be reckoned with, Deon Taylor's latest sack of shit, Fear, which I walked out on. I'm sorry, Joe Sikora. I know you're a local dude. You're a local actor. I've seen you on stage in Chicago. You're a talented guy. I'm sorry, Rick Cogan, that you're in the opening scene of this movie, but it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, and it's the first movie in 22 years I've ever walked out on. And unfortunately, it was made by creative genius and all-star basketball player Deon Taylor. Fucking hilarious.